Hey everyone, hope all is well. I wanted to share a little video on how our thoughts and our words impact other living entities. So what could be another living thing besides a person? Water, right? Water is an element and it's a living thing. So I want to just show you a little video of Dr. Moto on the water research that he did. I'll just show you a little clip with my iPad and we'll talk about that real quick. So hopefully you can hear it.
Water. I hope to show people through my research that water has a memory of its own. Dr. Emoto's laboratory does research on water samples, which are subjected to various forms of outside influence. The impressions made upon the water are recorded by swiftly freezing it in a cryogenic chamber. This is what water heated in a microwave oven looks like. This is the effect of a mobile telephone. Somebody said thank you to this water. Excuse me. You disgust me. In all of the world's religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, it is the practice to recite a prayer before taking food or to consecrate the food during major...
So this is just something simple, right? And they've done something called the rice experiment, where somebody will make 3 jars of rice, cooked rice, and they'll label it love, ignore, and hate. And the person will actually either think or say loving things to that jar specifically. All the other ones are away. Then the person will take the other jar and just ignore it, not say a word. And then the jar that says hate, you'll have angry feelings towards it even though you don't say anything, and you will say stuff towards it. And then when the person, over a month or whatever period it was, looked at the rice that he said loving things to and gave loving feelings to, didn't change. It's in a glass sealed jar, all of them. And then the one that's ignored started to decay a little bit. But the one that said hate on it, it had all this mold and it was disgusting, and it all came from the same pot of rice. So with this experiment with the water, people have done extremes where they've locked up in a certain room, the love room, the ignore room, the hate room. They've done the same thing with plants, where this is the room where you just go into the room with the plants and you have good feelings and you say affirmations and loving, kind things to them. And in that room, you just go in there and ignore them. And the other one, you feel anger and say mean things to it. And then the plant that were given love to, and all of them were treated the same with water and the climate and everything, environment. The ones that people gave love to grew beautifully. The ones that people ignored had a stunted growth. And the ones that people hated and gave bad energy to started to wilt and die. So there was a movie called I Am, which is from the director of God Almighty and Pet Detective and Ace Ventura. And he had a bad concussion. So he's like, okay, I feel suicidal, I feel depressed. What is life about? So he made a documentary called I Am, right? So he went and started asking questions about the purpose of life. So at one point he was at the Heart Institute and they was showing him how negativity and positive vibes impact everything around you. So they hooked up a petri dish of yogurt to 2 electrodes. One fed the negative and positive, and then it would go up to a meter. And if things were negative, it would go this way. If it was neutral, it'd stay. If it go positive, it would go the other direction. So he asked him, he goes, what's the worst day of your life? Who don't you like? And he started to talk about this person. And it started to go into the negative. And he goes, okay, relax. Think of just normal thoughts. And went back to normal. He goes, what's the best day of your life? Oh, when I married my wife, and this and that, and start going to the positive. And this is a petri dish of yogurt. So what's the purpose of me sharing all this? I talked about water, I talked about rice, I talked about plants, I talked about yogurt, right? But it just shows that these aren't considered, sentient beings. They're not animals, they're not people, but they still pick up energy. So just that in itself shows that you being in an environment that's toxic, what it does to you. Because if your body's a certain percentage of water, right, how does that interact with your cells? How does that interact with your health? Not only mental health, but physical health. So these are things really to start to look at too. So, and then also if you're in a positive environment, how does that make you feel? I mean, I know when you feel happy, you feel joy, you feel loved, it's like you could conquer the world, because you have just this abundance of energy. And this is important. So when you look at what and who you're surrounding yourself with, this is really important to look at. I know this is just the beginning of what we're talking about, but all this stuff connects to each other. Nothing moves on its own. Everything has a connection within the universe, with the energy, with everything. So if you're looking, you could look up any of these experiments. You could just put water experiment, rice experiment, plant experiment, and these things will come up on YouTube. But when you look at how you think, how you feel, how you treat yourself, your thoughts about yourself when you're alone, when you're just thinking in general when it comes to you, are they normally positive or negative? If they're negative, notice it. And when you notice it, you just say to yourself, stop, I'm not doing that to myself. And this is why sometimes it's good to get books that have affirmations in them. My book has a couple, like 3 pages of affirmations, because it's one of the exercises in the book. And that's a warrior in the world, spiritual samurai. And sometimes you have to rewire your brain. You do get rewired when you're around negative and toxic people. This is what they call the trauma bond. It rewires your mind, but your mind is plastic. They talk about neuroplasticity. Your mind could be reshaped and rewired if you put it in the right environment, especially if you put it in the wrong environment. So if you notice your thoughts are negative, just pause, say, okay, I'm not thinking that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Just no. And then if anything, start to think about the good things about you and what you do. It's like, oh, I'm a loving person. I'm a caring person. I'm a kind person. It's like, just say those things. And it's not about trying to make up something that's not true. It's trying to rewire your mind. Because if you're in a toxic relationship, it's like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not. And then if you start saying those things, you start to believe those things. And your health will start to decay, because it's just a byproduct of you not feeling good about yourself. So looking at these experiments, it shows how powerful our thoughts and our words are. So if you have to change those, you have to relearn it, it's okay. This is all a journey, and it's your own spiritual journey. But if you're in a relationship with somebody, if you have a friendship with somebody, if you have family members that always are negative and condescending and devalue you and put you down, you don't have to be around that. You have the choice to say no. And no is the most powerful one-word sentence you could use. And, these are just things that are important. That's why even with the stuff on TV, it's so negative. The fear-mongering, they have to. There's an agenda behind it. But it's up to you to either immerse yourself in it or take yourself away and out of it. Just like a relationship. You don't have to have a relationship with Facebook or any of this stuff. Read some books that open your mind and fulfill your heart. If you read the Bible and that's what you love, read about Jesus. There's nothing more perfect than Jesus. If you're into Eastern philosophy, read about the Buddha and the mind. If you're Hindu, read the Ramayana, learn about Hanuman and his unconditional love for Ram as a devotee. Krishna, all these things help you reconnect. And whether it's a true story or a fable, It doesn't matter. If you could connect with it and your heart starts to yearn for more, and it's a beautiful thing, and there's like a blossoming out of it, that's all that counts. If you read self-help books, nothing wrong with that. I remember one of the books that really changed my life like 26 years ago was Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. He talks about so many things. And of course it's a bestseller, and of course that's why he's so popular. But you really have to rewire your mind. And if you're in a toxic relationship, that's not going to happen, because you can't sit there and go, okay, I'm a good person, I'm a happy person, I'm a peaceful person. And then the person comes in, oh, you piece of shit, you're trying that stuff again. It's like, it's not going to work. You know, you have to get yourself out of that environment, and that's really difficult. With work too, sometimes you have to either try to change the department that you're in, or sometimes leave your job because you have a narcissist for a boss and toxic people. It's just, it took me over 7 or 8 years to get out of the firehouse I was in. That was super toxic. And then when I finally got to the other place, it was like a dream come true. Meanwhile, of course, before I left, somebody's like, oh, you think it sucks here? Wait till you have double the guys after you and all this. And it just wasn't true, you know? But I had to be brave enough and strong enough to go for it and to leave that environment. So you have all these choices too, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to give yourself the strength and the power to do it. So even if you're in an environment that hasn't changed yet, this is where your meditation comes into place. This is where the contemplation from another video I talked about comes into place, to notice how you feel. But if you notice your mind starts to dwell on negative things against you and yourself, just say, stop, I'm not doing it. Pause, take that break, and start to breathe. I have some exercises like that in my book also. But these are important things to do, because unless you notice it and are aware of it, you won't be able to change it. But once you are, you have the power to change anything and everything. Remember, whatever you invest your time and energy into will expand and grow. Just like if you want to learn about the stock market, next thing you know, you're learning about different stocks and how everything works, and you should be making money, right? That's how, just with everything. If you don't learn about it, you just throw money at different things, you're going to lose money. So you want to invest in yourself and do it with the things that help you the most. So, you know, this is just something I wanted to talk about today, because we're still talking about feelings and energy and other things of that nature. And this will help. Like if you're meditating and things come up, you don't have to try to blank out your mind where there's no thought. It's one of the worst interpretations of what meditation should be. You sit there, you feel whatever you think, notice what you think. If it's just you about yourself and it's negative, you stop it, you change it. If it's other people's stuff, you notice it, you stop it, you change it. Using affirmations is a great way to start. You know, but the most important thing is being aware and not allowing yourself to go into the darkness, because somebody who's toxic wants you there, because then that's how they could control you. And remember, misery loves company, and a pity party is not a party unless there's people there. So you don't have to be involved with that stuff. So I hope this was helpful. We're going to keep going from here. Any comments that anybody has, or any insight or questions, please share in the comment section. Not many people are doing it. If you find this helpful, please leave a thumbs up, a like. You know, this will help keep everything going. But yeah, just wanted to talk about how our thoughts and our words really affect ourselves and others. So hopefully this helped, and I will see you soon. Have a good night.